Um, I'm on the National Advisory Committee for the TSX Venture Exchange, have been there for over a decade because we do really good public company transactions. And I guess personally, I do also. This came to our attention, had to have it back in, I was 17, I guess. An asset, 30,000 hectares, that's El Tigre. 25 kilometers of the Sierra Madre. We drive right to it. No Ejido. I could go on and on. I've already bought the middle 7,000 hectares from the rancher, 1.1 million, but make no mistake why we got it. And this is all we're going to talk about today, guys. The old El Tigre mine, what we found under and around it. We got 15 kilometers more to go. This is a district. We'll be, some of us on the phone may be dead, maybe even me, and they'll still be drilling off silver ounces at El Tigre. Some of you young fellas write that down and remember when I'm gone, I said it. It's the truth. There's why we did it right there, that old El Tigre mine. 100 million silver equivalent ounces, 1908 to 1930. Big American mine, the biggest one in Mexico at the time. They all closed because of the Great Depression. They went home, dropped their tools. 2.2 kilos was the average grade. Cutoff grade was 1.2 kilos. 100 ton and 200 ton per day mill over the 20 years. We knew one thing: drill under it and around it, north and south of it, 2 or 3 kilometers along the strike, it would go well. Boy, has it gone well. Enough about that. Let's talk about what we've done, because I think it's important to do what you say. Since 16, almost 17 when we got it, basically we raised $91 million. 75 million of that's been bought in the last 3 years, guys. That wasn't easy to do at valuations way higher than where we are right now. I'm going to show people, just so they know, who gave me the 75 million. I think it's pretty important. Everybody on this side gave about 90% of it. Franklin, Sprott Asset Management, Merck, Feneck, McKenzie, Fort Sale. They're very pleased with what we've done so far, even though the market's down. I think people need to know that. The second thing is, for a small junior, I think that you need to know that we have a very, very big syndicate of those that help us. We're going to need money as we go. When we need to get debt, when we need to get these things. It's great to have all these companies see on that screen, basically giving us, excuse me, analyst coverage. But more importantly, BMO has stepped up there. PI should soon launch. We had all these guys down to site a month ago, walked the whole mountain. Absolutely a beautiful visit. That's really who we are. But what did we do with the money? That's the most important thing. We drilled 125,000 meters. Now, remember that 91. I feel pretty good today, guys. At the end of last quarter, I had 24 million left in the bank. 61.5 went right in the ground. Over that 8 years that we've been doing this, less than 8 million Canadian in G&A. We're pretty proud of that. That's how you make these things go ahead. It goes in the ground and you deliver. And look, let's go talk about what we delivered. That's what we need to get to. September, look, I'm not going to get into some fancy big chart and walk you all through it, because that's sort of, as far as we're concerned, not really what we like to do. Here it is. Here's what I'm looking for. The what we want to show you is 176 million silver equivalent ounces. I'm going to make it really simple. 80 million in the pit. 90 million in the 3 main veins, the sulfide zone, and that beautiful shale horizon. Here we're going to go now and talk about Geology 101. This is El Tigre in a nutshell, guys. Anybody, even a securities lawyer, can follow this one. When we go to Mexico, always, we want that and we want that. We knew we had all that. There's your big bulk tonnage, open pit, low cost. We're going to talk about it in a minute, and drives the money to go underground after those narrow silver veins. High grade, 1, 2, 10, 20, 80, 100 kilos, what the old timers mine. In the last 2 years, Donnie, you saw it as we talked a year ago and a year later, 2 big major discoveries. We never expected a black shale across the entire property, 10, 20, 30 meters of multi-kilo ore. Last year, a sulfide zone. We drilled into that at depth, first deep holes. That's multi-kilo ore, open at both ends, much more drilling to come. But what you really need to know about that is already 750 meters by 350 meters high by 40 meters. Bulk, narrow vein, bulk, bulk. That's why this will be one of, if not the best, silver asset as we get to explore it. We're going to talk about this. This is door number one. Underground is going to be door number two. All of our drilling, though, I think I want to tell people, is transitioning to underground. We've gone back in the old Tiger mine. I know people have paid attention to that, spent a lot of money over the last year or so on a company called Cominvi. And really, that's the next when you start doing this. You have to start exploring from underground. So we decided we're going to open that old mine up. And we brought Cominvi, and Cominvi do all the underground work for Silvercrest, 90 kilometers to the south of us. They've done Agnico's work. They did our work way back 25 years ago. Big company. And what we gave them the ticket to do was the following. You're going to love this, Don. I think you might have saw this before. Here's what the old timers left us. Beautiful underground. We told Cominvi, we don't want that 2.5 by 2.5. We want 5 by 5. So they basically drifted into the side of the mountain, about almost a half kilometer. All of our exploration going forward now will be from underground on those, the veins, the shale, and the sulfide zone. Well, let's go back and talk about two things before I wrap up here in about 2 or 3 minutes. It's important. When people saw this and me hire this gentleman here in May, they should have got a message. Francisco Alvarez tried to hire him for years. One of the best mine builders in Mexico for the past 25 years. The last decade, he was with Argonaut. That's very important. His first 5 years with Argonaut, he permitted, built, and ran El Castillo, and then permitted, built, and ran San Agustin. We know the success those mines had. The last 5 years before he joined us, he ran all those operations in Mexico. You need that guy. I'm a pretty good guy at raising money. I'm a pretty good guy at building public companies and getting them to here. I'm glad we've got him to build a mine. He's the COO of Mexico. Very important hire for me this year. And I hope people paid attention to it when I press released it in the spring. Now, let's talk about what we've delivered. I want to go get these PEA highlights, guys, because they are incredible. Here's how we're going to do it. We're currently permitted for the underground. You know that, Don. You know that, John. Very important. Mm-hmm. When Francisco came in, he said, Glenn, the underground's ready to go. You've got your permit as of right. We're doing all the work to develop that, but I want to do the pit first. I said, okay. I said, you know Mexico better than most. You permitted all those big pits. He said, I know how we can get it done. We're going to not file for a new permit for the open pit. We're going to file an amendment to the current permit we have, which he did in July, so that we're using all of the cyanide, the Merrill-Crowe, all of those approvals to run the open pit. I am going to tell you now, that's all in, and we feel very comfortable that we're going to get that. And that is why we have taken the step we've taken. And remember, when we take this step, 25 years, you said that experience, this is the right decision for the company. And here's why. We did the rest of the work through the summer after the resource was put out, 176 million silver equivalent ounces. People go look at it. I'm not going to get into it too much right now. This PEA is incredible. When you look at a PEA and the highlights there, and I'm going to show you this bit before we close up and tell you what we're doing right now. When you look at that NPV, remember, this is the first inning, not even the first inning, warm up in the first inning. But it gives you the capital to get that underground and go after that world-class asset. 287 million USD. I'm switching to US dollars. You'll expect them, and more to have resonance with you. 56% IRR. Payback 1.7 years, guys. You talked about cash flow, Don. This thing generates in 12 years 455 million USD free cash flow. You can do the math what that is per year. Imagine how much development, exploration, and drilling I can do in the underground when I get that flowing. And we will very quickly. But what we love, look at that CapEx. There's no easy mining in Mexico. The only thing that's easy is an open pit. Underground, tough. Anybody tells you it's not, they're not telling you the truth. So why we love it is 59 million CapEx. That's a good contingency. Those are real numbers. People said they're so low. How are they? They're real numbers. And that's what's going to drive the economics so that I can basically go after the underground. And look, this will be 5, 10, 15, 20 years. We're still going to be driving silver from the Tiger. But one thing I want to show you before I go, let's go look at this pit, because I think that people who understand the economics of these things should really look at what we have here. 2 kilometers, 2-to-1 strip. Grade is 0.65. Recovery 78%. The starter pit in the middle is 0.4 strip, 0.9. I'm using gold, 0.95%, because the majority, what people don't understand, or I got to come back to that and finish it off. Majority of the pit, 95% is gold. Silver deposit with a big gold kicker at the top, which we're going to go after. That's the only reason you get 78% recovery on that. What we're doing right now, full on. PEA is done. We're going to basically finish the pre-fees by May or June of this year. 4 drill rigs. This is what I like to tell people about how busy we are. Everybody else, and I'm sorry, 20 million bucks in the bank today, don't need money. We were very strategic with that last bought deal financing from BMO led in February. People said, why are you taking money now? Because that's why we took money now, so we can keep going. With that in the bank, I'm going to spend 6 million of it, guys, so nobody gets any surprises what they're going to look for with El Tigre. Mr. Francisco Albalez is going to deliver a number of things. We've already done the metallurgical holes. 6 of them are already done. They're in the columns for fine-tuning the metallurgical work. Golder, you guys like Golder? Great company out of the US. They've done all the pit design. They've done all the slope work. They signed off a month ago on the 13 geotechnical holes. 4 drill rigs are on the mountain, have been turning for the last 3 months, doing all the geotechnical holes. We're on hole 4 right now. Then what we're going to do, we don't want to lose any tonnage. So those 4 drill rigs will keep drilling right until next May, June, when we deliver that pre-feasibility. We're going to take that 54 million tons. We don't want to lose the 11 million of that as was inferred, because as you know, you will lose any of your inferred tons in that pit to your pre-fees. If you don't move them, we're going to move them up. But the nicest thing we're going to do is right here in that starter pit, guys. That's the beauty of this thing. When you start to go into production, there's that first 3 years of production. That's that starter pit I talked about. Those drill rigs are then going to move all this indicated to measured and proven. That's how you bank it, because they'll want to see 2 years in front of them with a 1.7-year payback. So come June, let's say June, we are going to have spent 6 million of the 20, and we're going to deliver the PFS, and Francisco is going to build on that PFS because we have this beautiful starter pit, which will allow the banking to happen. I'm working all the various funders right now, and we're going to get this thing into production. So I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to let you guys come at me with all your questions, because we're very, very excited about what the future holds for El Tigre. And one thing I will say, Don, and thank you for saying it, people don't realize, we all know what a tough market it is. And if you look what El Tigre, what my team, not me, but my team delivered, led by Francisco, on that mountain this year, $28 million bought, sorry, $18 million bought deal financing, BMO led in January. 176 million silver equivalent ounces in September in an MRE. A PEA, which is the warm-up, not even the first inning, on the pit, because in time the underground will absolutely exceed it by miles in November with the economics I showed you. And what people don't realize also, 4 drill rigs, when a lot of people aren't exploring right now, turning for the last 3 or 4 months, getting us to pre-feasibility study. And I guess the one nice thing I should remember, pretty soon we're going to have a lot of drill results coming out steady all through the next 5 or 6 months on El Tigre. So yes, thank you for saying that, because, you know, sometimes we just look at the market, we look at stocks, and we look at performance, and it does get everybody a little bit down. But we know what we've accomplished this year, and we know the value that's going to have. When this turns, what you guys talked about, oh boy, look out for Silver Tiger. We won't have to do anything. We just have to be very, very fortunate to be rewarded with all the hard work we've done to now.
So Thanks, Glenn, for that overview. That was fantastic. So I want to start over because we didn't have it recorded when I introduced you. So I actually
Here we go.
we're going to do it again. So um, I met Glenn in Beaver Creek in 2022, and it was one of the most impressive presentations. Larry Lepard and myself, when we walked out of there, we were like, wow, is that real? Because it just looked so strong. And Glenn, he has a lot of experience on how to build these mines. And he just showed you the overview. Basically, it has a low CapEx, and he's valued right now at $50 million, which is crazy cheap. And I have him projected in the future as an 8 million ounce silver equivalent producer. So once he gets that underground going, so down the road, maybe 3-4 years from now, he gets to 8 million ounces. I have him as free cash flow is $600 million, and he's currently valued at 50, so that's 12x. And so it basically prints as a 30 bagger. And so for me, I'm an investor. I like to have a foundation first of physical metal and then producers, and then I go after companies like Glenn's. And I love to find opportunities like this. It's one of the, like right now, over the last year or two, I've been looking at, what are the strongest 10 baggers out there? What's my small list of 10 baggers that I want to own? And this is definitely one of those. It's really hard to find red flags, with this kind of upside. You're not going, if you're going to get a 10, 20, 30 bagger, it's not going to be, just totally easy, right? There's always going to be risk. And so I look at 5 different buckets that I look for development stories, because they are high risk. And if they check all the boxes, then I'm good to go. And I kind of want to go over those boxes. So the first one is the upside. I want it to be a 10 bagger at least. And this one is well above that. So it has the upside. The second thing I look for is the location. And this one's in northern Mexico. So it's actually in a good location in Mexico. There's no cities around it. It doesn't have any ojito, right? Which is great. And so it's in one of the better locations in Mexico. So I like that a lot. And then the next thing is the path to production. And this one has a very strong path to production. Glenn just went over it for you. He told you, he's basically hired, a fantastic mine builder and operator. I am aware of those 2 mines that Argonaut ran. And so, yeah, he is the right guy for the deal. And then the next one is guidance. I want a company to tell me, how they're going to do it. And I want a company that's passionate. I mean, last month, you guys remember, I gave Aftermath a hard time because they're not passionate about building their mine. But Glenn is completely passionate about it. He actually, he believes that this is the way to make money, is to build the mine. And he'll come out and tell you that. And that's how I feel. The way you make money is you basically mine the gold, mine the silver. And so they've given very, very strong guidance. We're going to build this mine. We're not giving it away. And that to me is a really important factor. And then the last one is really important as well, is the insiders. You want a company that has enough strong insiders so that when somebody calls on the phone, like Hecla calls them up and says, we want to buy your company. I mean, Glenn goes, sorry, we're going to build it. That's what you want. And they have enough insiders. It doesn't matter how much Hecla wants to pay. They're not for sale. When you're a 10, 20, 30 bagger, why should you sell it to Hecla, right? So they're not for sale.
Absolutely.
And so it's across the board. It checks all the boxes. And, this is the kind, when you want to be a speculative investor, these are the beautiful plays you find. And it's like, you try to poke holes into them. You try to find the weakness. So the only weakness I see in this, Glenn, and the question I'm going to throw at you is just 2 questions. The one is, do you need a feasibility study? How long was it going to take if you do need one? And then the permitting on that amendment for that underground, how confident are you? When do you think you're going to get those permits? Those are my only 2 questions.
So first of all, the mountain was so good to us with respect to the build, and I'm talking to you now about pre-feasibility study. So the lenders that we're going to be going to, and I'm already engaged 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have made it very clear to them that we are going to build on feasibility. This is Albalay's, Francisco's words. He built those two big open pits you just talked about. He did them both on pre-feasibility study. What they did was they basically went out and got your payback period with a cushion, and you moved all that to proven, and you got that to measured, and that's how we're going to do it also. The payback is 1.7 years. I mean, if it was a 3 or 4 year payback, make a difference. We've got more than that in the starter pit, which is almost a gram of gold and 0 strip. So we're very comfortable on that, and that's how we're going to do it. And look, people get caught up a little bit too much, Don, also on what's a feasibility study and what's a pre-feasibility study. We all know how the world works, okay? Right now, the only reason you want a feasibility study is because Scotiabank and BMO and all those guys, they're not going to do anything without it. And most times, those banks just tell you, go get it done with the other lenders on pre-feasibility. And once you have 2 years of production, that's all they're looking for. That's what the feasibility study does. They'll just transfer it over. We're going to skip right by that by basically taking that first 2 years, 2.5 years, inside the pre-feasibility study to feasibility, and we'll get it financed for sure that way.
Right. And permitting, what do you think? You said you submitted it in July. So when do you think you're going to get those permits? And
so what I will say, and all of my people, I keep and Francisco, who's very, very comfortable and confident in how we've done it. We have great support within Mexico to basically proceed as we are. That's very important. Okay, from state level on up. And you said that about this state. This is a very pro-mining state, Don. I mean, we're surrounded by mines. I look over and see Cananea, and I fly over La Carte at 90 kilometers of Silvercrest. Our Santa Gratuitous is 100. I mean, this is mining country, and we are very, very confident we're going to get it. And Francisco came in, who's been doing this for 25 years, and how we're doing it. Remember, we can, as of right, go underground, Don.
Right.
Okay.
I
already have bought. This is just so you know. This is what the decision we've made in our experience. Right. I already own the 800 ton per day mill. It's in Mexico. I've already done all the engineering on that. But that is, it's going to be a little slower. You're going to have to do a lot of development. I want to de-risk all that underground because Francisco said we are going to do it this way, and he said, I know how to get this permit. And he tells me, just relax, Glenn. We don't need it till June. Right. So yeah, I say that, between now and June, I'm very comfortable and very confident we're going to get it. And I'm going to spend another $6 million. I'm putting my chips on the table to move this thing to pre-feasibility study so I can build it. So that's where my confidence comes from.
So let's look at kind of a worst case scenario.
Yes.
Worst case scenario is there's one politician that has a veto power and says, at this point in time, we don't want anybody building open pits, and you get, this is worst case, right? And sure. Some vetoes it, right? All right. In that scenario, that kind of worst case scenario, then you're going to pivot to underground. So if you pivot to underground, are you going to have to do a PEA on the underground?
So brilliant question on that you've asked there. So and it's not all or nothing. 70% of almost all precious metals in Mexico are open pit. People should not. I think it's 67%. That is not going to go away. We are very comfortable by June, when we are ready to do the open pit, that we'll have our permit. But I like your what if. What if? It's not what if I don't have it then. It's what if I don't get it until after that, because we will get it. Open pits are not going to go away in Mexico. In our opinion, we've been there a long time. So I'm not just going to sit on my hands. I'm still going to have $14 million left. All of the engineering has been done on the underground. We had Denham Engineering out of Ontario do all of that work. It's all done. It's all costed. I can turn the switch on that any day. PEA. We were very close, and I think you may have heard me talk about this when I said it. We were very close to delivering our PEA on the underground also for that 100 million almost silver equivalent ounces. The reason we didn't We got a little bit more work to do on the metallurgy. That's going to be all. You saw the recoveries on the underground. The shale and the veins, I think, are 98.1%. The sulfide zone was 99. That's just in straight flotation, but you're going to have different cons there. So we don't want, we got mass pull. We got a lot of complicated things to deal with there. We're doing that work now. So PEA on that, I was that close. So stay tuned on that. You nailed it right. So we always keep all of our options open. We're going to go underground at some point. So we might as well get all that work done. And that's why we've been doing it now. So there is no all or nothing here. We're very comfortable the way we always do it in Mexico, Don.
So, all right. So I'm being conservative on my valuation in your company. So when I said there was $600 million in free cash flow, that's $100 silver. So that's kind of upper limit. I think $100 silver is conservative over the next 5 years. So that's kind of what I use. So at a certain point, I expect you to get there. But my question to you is, I'm only giving value at 3.5 million ounces of silver underground production to get to 8. So I think my 8 number is a little conservative. What's your kind of, where do you think you're going to get to in 3 to 5 years production?
Well, I mean, if you look at it, just here's what I do. And I'm going to say this because I love what you're telling me, and I think you're right, and I hope you're right, but we've been mining for a long, long time. The prices we have right now at 2050 or 2100 and $25 silver, we dream as miners about those prices. So if they go, and when we did our studies, it's 1822 or 2250. So you saw the numbers that just the open pit, not even the first inning, Don, that was 4 or 5 million silver equivalent ounces a year right there production. That thing was generating $45 million USD free cash flow. Right. Let's move ahead. I'm dreaming here. Nobody can write this down, but I've done a lot of work on the underground too. So let's just say I turn that 800 ton per day mill on, which I have the right to do right now, basically, and it's 2.5 years from now. I've just basically told you when I think we're going to do that, 2 to 2.5. Build the other one, get it flowing, have no debt, have that money just to drive underground, do your development, get out ahead of it, and then 2.5 years, pop that on. Do I see this thing out of the gate being a company that generates well in excess of 100 million USD free cash flow a year? Absolutely. And that's just getting going because, as you know, that 800 ton per day mill is not going to stay as an 800 ton per day mill forever. That's how we'll start. And it's a good way to do it in Mexico. Some guys go, we're going to go 1,500, 2,000, too quick. You got a hungry mill. That's not good. So we see 18 because you look at all the big mines down there, most of them, 800, 1,500, 2,200, 3,000 tons per day. You grow into it as you go. And we're going to build it so we can just bolt on as we go, just so you know. So look, the sky's the limit, Don. This thing, the sky's the limit. How big is that shale zone going to be? That changes everything. It's already 750 meters by 350 by 40.
All right.
You need a mill for that.
All right. So at 800 tons per day, and I think that number really doesn't mean much because, like you said, you can always expand it.
Absolutely.
But at 800 tons per day, at 200 grams per ton, it's 2 million ounces. But I think that 2 million is kind of nothing, right? That's just a number. So my 8 million ounces target, I don't think that's too aggressive. It's not too aggressive, is it?
No, it's not. Don, we will, in our mind, and I'm going to put this out there because I know the companies well. My peers will overnight be Aya, Silvercrest. You can see the value they're attracting. So you just need
those are billion-dollar companies. Is exactly where I'm pricing you, right?
That they're my peers today.
Right, they're billion-dollar companies today. Well, I don't know about Aya, Silvercrest, but they've come down. But they're going to go up 5x. Right. So if you put them up 5x and then you go up and you're their peer, you hit my number, right? There
you go. I said it. I got to be careful when I project too far. You guys are allowed to do that.
I'm projecting.
I think you're a brilliant guy. You just got exactly what I was thinking.
You're just agreeing with me. That's all.
That's all. And steering it a little bit.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a great story, and you know who doesn't know this story, that's ignoring it, that's blind as a bat, is Wall Street.
Oh yeah.
They don't own your stock. None of them. Zero.
No,
Zero.
no, trying to get, we're not saying today, I guess, we're a small Canadian company. We're trade OTCQX. That's enough for right now.
Yeah.
Do I think this company is going to get enough meat on the bones and I'm going to have to step up and do a US listing? For sure. And, I think about that now. It's not the right time,
Yeah.
but, we will be. Look, Don, here's what I say about this. And people should think and listen very carefully. Everybody runs around, they put no drill holes, couple of samples. They say, yeah, this is going to be the next district. This is a district, Don. This is one of the great next Mexican districts. And you can, Pinos Altos, Dolores.
Wait.
This is a 30. And when you say how much money it's going to make,
So slow
I
down.
30 years, it's 40 years.
You don't, yeah, right. You don't have to go there. You already have enough silver equivalent.
100%.
You already have enough to make us all a lot of money. So what if everything else is just the cherry on top? That's all extra. We don't even need it. See, that's the one thing that I like to invest. I don't like to make it hard. I like easy investments. A hard investment is like you're hoping, right? You're hoping they double the size of the resource. But with you, there's no hope. There's no hope at all. We're already there. We already have enough.
Right.
If you find another 50% of silver, that's just all extra, right? It's like it just pushes you into the 50 bagger, area. But
what you're going to see is you're going to see probably the pit by June go up 15 to 20%. I can say that on tons. So you add another couple of years, which is beautiful. That's what that is. And that's not nice. But if a company just had that pit, they'd be so happy. They'd say, we're done. My next 12 years are done. That's not even a warm up in the first inning. But what I'm going to say on the 100 million that's in the underground already, I'm going to be very clear here. We're just getting going there. Not only is it going to get a lot bigger, the grade, we barely got any of that shale zone in. We only got a little of the sulfide. If you wait till we get a few more holes in that thing, that's going to be incredible.
Yeah.
So
go ahead, John.
Okay.
Good.
Don, we won't let you get a word in edgewise. I'm sorry.
No worries. I have a couple of financial advisors I see in the audience, so I just wanted to for their benefit, you had mentioned your QX on the OTC, which is the ticker SLVTF, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then can you show us the cap structure? Because I saw Franklin, Feneck, and the like, in terms of who the players are on the institutional side, but do you have a slide you could perhaps share with us?
I can it's easy. To go back in and share again, but it's really simple. So Franklin would own 9.9. Okay. That's all public. That's a big piece of the company for Franklin to own. Let's say Sam owns about 5, Merck about 5, Joe Foster owns a little bit less. So we've got some big institutions in there. Fourth Sale out of Brazil, they don't report, but they're a substantial shareholder. I know that just from watching where they come in the deals and what they buy and what they have. We have a 365 million shares out, a little more than I'd want right now. I would be the next largest shareholder, I think, personally, to probably Steve at Land at Franklin. And I own probably 15 million shares myself to 20 million shares. I bought all those shares, guys. I've got 2.5 million of my own dollars, and there's no free stock. We put our money in it, and I've never sold a share. All I've done is buy shares. I sell a share when I build a mine, and this thing's free cash flowing like crazy. And then we'll see. And I'll just say, no, I'm not selling yet because I'm going to double it from here. But what I think is very important about our group is we're with you. We are with you as far as shareholders. We're the shareholders. We put our money in and we only get out when we have success. That's the only way to do it.
So the 15 to 20.
I might have been a little higher on my share. It's not 20. It's probably in the range of 13 to 15. I just have to do the checking because it's in so many different boxes, John. But I don't want to overstate my holdings, but they're substantial.
Yeah. 13 to 15 million shares, if you bought those mostly or all on the open market, is very positive because, as Don knows, we see a lot of companies just, not buying on the open market. And that's not wonderful, especially in a market like this where clients want to see a CEO buying alongside of them, right? So
100%.
that's a positive. Um, the other question or thing to bring up that I had seen through your presentation was the slide on the analysts. You said you had 6 analysts. BMO was coming on board. That's 7 plus maybe someone else. So, that's another huge thing, guys, to point out is that you don't see many junior stocks with 6, 7, 8 analysts covering them. You usually see 0 to 2 analysts covering them. And I think that's really worth noting because when you see silver rip above that $26 level to test 28 and 30, then these are the type of people that are going to be chiming in, right? And rewriting the story when Glenn has his PFS out in June, per se, right? Like you're going to have a lot of other people chirping away to the market. And these people all have hundreds, if not thousands, of their own followers. So I think it's really a plus, wouldn't you say, Glenn?
Well, what I'd say is when you look at those numbers, we had that site visit. So you've got BMO, you've got PI's analyst was on that site visit. They're new to the game. You've got Sprott, who had basically Brock Salier is just an unbelievably smart analyst. You've got Echelon, you've got 8 Capital. Desjardins. I mean, it just goes on. And Stiefel, all of those. But what's so nice about it is they take their job seriously, and they're all very experienced mining engineers or geologists, but boy, they pay special attention. You could not imagine the amount of work they've done. They all tore that MRE apart when it came out. Like detailed 5, 6, pages, not me, them saying, look at this. And then when they got back from the site visit, a full big multi-page write-up from them on the site visit. And then they followed it up with the PEA and they build their own models. So not my model, what I think, I say it's this, they say, well, there's what we think. It's even better in most cases. And I mean, but what I would like to say is I like people to sign up for our info at Silver Tiger, whatever that is. I mean, it's on our website because we share this. Like we want people to read this independent analysis that's done on us. And so we share that. So a good reason for people to start following us, because it's a very, very valuable amount of knowledge that comes every press release. They will all write it up, be it a drill result, be it not just the big stuff. Every press release you'll get input from all of them.
Yeah, I actually do subscribe to your emails, and they are way above average in terms
Thank
of
you.
regularity, but also, content is very good. And I would encourage everyone to go to Silver Tiger's website and sign up for those for free. Well, with that, we're a little bit over time, guys. So let's wrap it there. Glenn, where are you going to be in the next few months? Will you be attending Vancouver's VRIC and Toronto's PDAC and the like?
So we're going to be on the right. Listen, you told me I had 10 minutes. When can I ever stop at 10 minutes? Like I get the biggest mouth in this game, right? 10 minutes is just my warm up. It's unbelievable. So sorry for having us over.
That's okay.
But I hope everybody got a little bit of an overview. Look, you know what? I was going to get to New York and Vancouver here in December, guys, and I pulled my wings in a little bit because I just came off of New Orleans. Then I was in Toronto. I did the Red Cloud show. And then I went to London, did a bunch of marketing over there. And then we did Zurich. And then I went back to London, and I get back and I said, we all know where we are. Everybody knows the story. I think we just got to, everything's going to slow down. We got the tax end, year-end selling. Tiger's on sale. Anybody buying Tiger right now? It's like the $1.99 sale. Go get it. It's incredible what the value is there. But what we're going to do is we're going to come out flying in the new year. I think I'm going to get to New York for a couple of days the first week. Talk to a bunch of family offices there. Right out for VRIC. I think we're having a luncheon there, they tell me, and I've been invited to go on the main stage for the Silver Summit. Is that what they call it? Silver presentations there. Then BMO, that's the big show we go to down in Miami. We'll be rolling in there in early February, middle of February. And I think I was talking to Steve Lowe, who does some work with us, and we're going to have a booth at PDAC, which will be very interesting. So people can come by and see us there. And then he said, I don't know what he said after that, but I think I'm going to try to get a week with my family. And then I think we're back to Zurich. And then I'm doing Vegas, a show. And then I think that Mr. Rick Rule, I might go down and see him in July. So that's pretty busy. So you'll hear me talking on lots of videos if anyone wants to follow us. But look, think of where we'll be by then, guys. I don't want to shape it up, though. We're going to get this pre-fees, and we're going to get that out there. I'm going to go get my permit if I'm right. You imagine when people look and they say, look at that, we should have a hot market, and here comes the next great silver producer. That's what this is. That's not hope. Don, you said it's not hope. That's just where we are. We're going to execute. We're going to do it. Who doesn't think Francisco Albalate? This is 15,000 tons per day. The last one he built was 55,000 tons per day. I think he's going to be able to do it.
Absolutely.
Right.
Talk about, Silver Tiger on sale and it's cheap. So when I first started doing this, I used to like to find, silver in the ground for 50 cents. I thought, if I can find silver in the ground for 50 cents, boy, that's a really cheap price.
Yeah.
So you have 180 million ounces. So at $1, you'd be $180 million market cap.
100%.
Right? Cut it in half, 50 cents, you'd be at 90 million.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Right. And you're at 50 million. So yeah. So just on the optionality alone, it makes sense. Right.
100%.
Just optionality. So, but then when you look at the free cash flow, it goes nuts.
The one thing I'd like to say is here's the work we've marketed hard, and you do the work today, but you're not going to get the reward in December. You know that. We've been through this. We've been in this 25 years. But you did all the work, because what's going to happen, you said it, two things are going to happen. This market's going to turn, and everybody's going to go, what's the name I need to have? Everybody knows who Silver Tiger is. I mean, not everybody, but we can always do more, but a lot do. And then all of a sudden in that atmosphere, we're going to come with that pre-feasibility study. We're ready to build with that permit. Look out.
Yeah.
That's going to be fantastic.
One final thought is that you don't want to, from my perspective, the way I invest, you never want to invest for short term in mining stocks. There's just too much risk. You want to do it long term. So if you buy Silver Tiger here today, you want to hold it for at least 3 years. That's a
magic number.
You hold it for at least 3 years, and then after 3 years, then you decide if you're going to hold it another 2. It's a long-term investment. Every time I buy my stock, it's 3 to 5 years. I could care less about the next year. But your valuation, I really don't care. The only thing I care about is that you're making progress, and that's it. That's my call. Glenn, thanks for being on.
Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it.
Good to get this
story out,
and I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Glenn.
Have a very Merry Christmas, both of you, if I'm not talking to you. And I really appreciate the invitation to be on here and talk to you tonight, because I respect your positions in this industry very much. Thank you.
Thank you,
I
Glenn.
appreciate that. Thanks. Well, we'll wrap it here, everyone. Don, another great time with you this month. We actually have something coming up December 15th with US Gold, ticker USAU. So we're doing a doubleheader this month. That should be exciting. That stock is up, I think, 20% in the last 2 sessions. So things are just moving off the bottom real fast. And to Glenn's point, I mean, I don't know, Glenn, just one last thing. When we were both in Europe, I found that a lot of people were looking, and instead of buying, and that is like a huge mistake right now. You can't be looking for the best entry point. You just have to buy. It's like, and we're, I'm saying that as a value manager who takes his time buying stuff. But right now, the backdrop looks so good. It's go time. You have to build a position before tax loss season is over, in my opinion, and stuff like Silver Tiger, because at some point in Q1, it'll be a double, and it's like, then you're going to be kicking yourself.
Absolutely.
So, everyone should go to the website, take a look, send me some email or Don an email. Happy to answer any additional questions, but we've got to wrap it here. So thanks a lot to both Glenn and Don. And this is the Feneck Commodities Report. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Leave.
John, can we usually do a wrap, right? And explain,
Yeah,
have our,
yeah. I've
and-
got something in 9 minutes, so we've got a little bit of time.
yeah.
But make sure
You
that
guys
we
want me
hit.
to stay for this or go, guys? Stay or go?
Oh,
You can go.
you can go, Glenn. It's fine.
I mean, I would, that's great. Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it. Bye now.
Right.
You got it. Bye bye. So Don, yeah, just why don't you just kick it off and tell us what you think? Because you're the one who you and Larry found this. What is that? Almost a year and a half ago. And
Yeah.
did more due diligence than me.
Yeah. So I, you know, there's been about 10 names, development stories that I've, really, kind of my short list, kind of my go-to that I think are easy, kind of these 10's probably too many. I mean, or maybe 5, 8 of these development stories that just look really good on paper. I mean, they just kind of check all the boxes, no really red flags. And Silver Tiger's kind of really in kind of the top of the list. And anybody that's watched this or did any analysis, like I said, they already have the gold and silver in the ground. And the CapEx is super. I mean, my goodness, it's like $60 million. I mean, that's just, and he has this mill, 800 ton per day mill that he bought. So, usually CapEx, you're worried about overruns. You were worried about dilution. We're not really worried about that here. The insiders are really strong. It just checks all the boxes. I mean, really, the only thing we're really worried about here is that open pit permit, but they can just pivot to underground if they have to. The underground's there, so it's not as if that's going to be really hard. So, I just this is one of my favorite stories in the development plays, and it looks great. I really don't have a problem now. Interestingly, I'll bring this up, is some people think that Glenn is too much of a salesman because he's very dynamic speaker. He's very, he's very energetic, and they just think, he's just talk, 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 talk. But I've watched this guy execute, and he executes really well. So even though he's a bit of a showman, if you will, I think he's the real deal as far as building mines and knowing how to pull this stuff off. And I don't see that as a red flag. So that's my overview here.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, anyone with a securities law background is not a negative when it comes to mining, right? Like you want people like Glenn running the ship who is going to run it correctly, as opposed to so many things that we've seen in the last few years where they've just been the companies have been mismanaged. Let's face it, it's just happened again. I won't name names, but just a couple weeks ago, a major gold play just taken out for pennies in the dollar, and you're just sitting there as a shareholder saying, "Wait, I wanted the opportunity to ride this thing up." Right? It's like
yeah, was that
it's marathon, yeah. So I've said that publicly in Kiko, so I mean it's out there, right? Like we're not in this for 10 to 20% gains was the quote that Paul Harris quoted me on, and we're not, right? Like we're not interested in buying a stock like that at 40, which was our entry point, and getting a deal at 46 and a half. It's like, come on, this is BS, right? Like we want to see that thing built.
right? So you say you have another meeting you got to go to?
Yeah, I've got to run here in like 5 minutes.
You have 5 minutes. So let's do the intro. Let's talk a little bit about macro, and then when you have to go, I can just keep talking. We can
Cool. Okay.
So you go first, macro, and then I'll follow up.
Okay, yeah. So we were talking off camera about gold and the breakout, of course, that we saw here going into today's open on December 4th, and then the fade. You and I had both pointed out that the gold was going to make an all-time high. I was saying Q1, but this is a pleasant surprise. And then we were talking, about things to look for, and you had brought up. I wrote them down actually. A weekly close on gold of 2100 an ounce or higher. A weekly close on silver of 30 an ounce or higher, concurrently, correct?
Right.
that's number one. Number two was a black swan event, and number three was a market sell-off. And I had said that I thought a market sell-off probably was probably the most sure thing of those three options,
Most
because
likely.
we were both pointing out like the S&P, had flirted with the high 4100s as recent as the end of October, and then Fed saved the day again on November 1st, right? And then the market just pumped up again. But this is a technical move off of that level to the 4500 plus level. It's not everything's rosy and we're safe, which is how I think a lot of participants are viewing this, right? And that's a mistake because there's just too much going on in the backdrop here, in my opinion, that you have to pay attention to if you're long stocks. And that's why we were also saying that we're short about 10-11% right now. You had agreed with that. I think you had said, you were short some financials. We're short some financials too, but I mean, it's like we're short other areas of the market too. We're short China. That's worked out beautifully. That's one of the only shorts that's working right now and directionally as an ETF play. If you look at the FXI, which is the largest ETF for China long, it looks terrible. I mean, like that's why we're short. It's like the chart's telling you to be short. And so there's a lot of different ways to make money in this market, but for us, we've been, 9 to 10% cash, 10 to 12% short roughly for the last few months, and then just long mining stocks for the rest of the money.
Right. So yeah, so the technical analysts have all basically been in agreement that gold is breaking out here. And my gut is like, but wait a minute, how can it break out? Just because the charts say it's going to break out? For me, I need to have confirmation in the macro area for me to get confident that we're basically not going to, that we're breaking out and we're not going to get an opportunity to buy the, lower prices, to get basically be able to buy a dip. And I'm not going to basically turn bullish and say, this is it, we're off and running, because we're not seeing all of the, what you would expect to see if gold is running, if we're having a run, if you will. The miners are 20% off of their bottom here. The 20% run over a few weeks is not, that's not the kind of run that's just kind of a blip. You want to see that much stronger movement in the miners. And so, and when you look at the stock market to me is just extremely overvalued here. And I'm using the word extreme because I think it is, because next year, Wall Street is priced in 10% earnings growth for next year. And I just don't see that happening. 10% growth. That's basically saying we're not having a recession. And I don't see that. The beige book, the Fed came out with their beige book in October, and over half of the country is the economy is slowing right now. And the other half is flat. I mean, there's just, you have a little bit of growth in a couple sections, but overall, the U.S. is, it's the beige books is saying that everything is slowing down here. It's not as if, and then what is going to turn that around? I mean, if the Fed lowers rates, is that really going to turn everything around? I mean, that's kind of what Wall Street is saying. All they have to do is lower rates, and everything's going to be back to normal. And I just don't feel that. It just doesn't make any sense to me. When you have a slowing economy, why should you get increased earnings if everything's slowing down? And so the stock market is, I think, going to, in the next, I don't know if it's going to crash in the first quarter or the second quarter. I'm thinking it's going to crash in the first quarter, but sometime in the first two quarters, first or second quarter. I mean, it could go all the way to April or May. But I say that's on the horizon. So since that's on the horizon, it's hard for me to get excited about this move in gold, unless silver, I think, like I said, the black swan, we either have to, a black swan, gold and silver have to both take off, and then I'll have to basically capitulate. So gold goes over 2,100, silver goes above 30, and I'll throw in, I'll throw in the towel and say, we're not going to correct. We're off to the races here. Runs under, and you get over 30 silver, and the miners are going to start flying.
Oh, absolutely.
So your HUA, which in the GDXJ, which are way down. I mean, if you can compare those to the price of gold, they have a lot of way to run here. So if silver goes up 30, everything's going to start running. So you need that. So, but like you said, the most likely outcome for gold to finally break out is you're going to have a crash in the market. And then once you get that crash in the market, you get to decouple. And so and so I'm saying that somewhere around 3,800 to 4,000 on the S&P, I'm expecting gold to decouple. But if it doesn't decouple before 4,000, gold could easily go down below 1,850. You know,
Okay.
what does it decouple? Does it decouple at 4,100, 4,200? I think, you know, but that initial sell-off in the S&P, which I think is inevitable, is going to pull gold down. So if it's going to pull gold down, how far? Does it pull it back below 2,000? I say yes. I think right now I am not confident 1,900 holds. My target's 1,800 to 1,850, and everybody says you're too bearish, Don. Gold's breaking out here. You're way too bearish.
Yeah, but if you do look at where we were on gold just before Israel, which was October 7th, gold was going back to test 1,800, right? And we were in the 1820s.
1810.
So
We went to
yeah,
1810.
okay. So yeah, it bounced right off of that level again, making another higher low, barely, but did it, which is awesome because the chart is beautiful looking when you look at a series of higher lows over the last number of years, that being gold, you know.
Right.
And you had mentioned leverage off camera too, and you know that's one of the reasons I like Silver Tiger, the leverage to the underlying metal, this being silver and gold, right? We talked a little bit about Aftermath because we interviewed them in October. They have tremendous leverage to silver. If you look at what happened on just December 1st, silver rallied and that stock was up 15 to 20% in one day. Like there is a lot of pent up buying out there, coupled with a lot of short selling going on, guys. I
Right.
mean, I'm seeing it there. You know, it doesn't really matter if you're up, right? Like, who cares if it was short selling or new buying? Like, this happened in January of 16, and Don was there too, right? I was looking at Core, you mentioned CDE, I was looking at AG, Keith's company. These things were getting smoked every single day. I was getting filled on limit orders away from the action. And I called both Mitch and Keith, I remember, among other CEOs, and I said, "Is this just like me, or is this just a tremendous buy?" Like you know, and they were all the same kind of answer. I don't know what's going on. This is just a great entry point, and that's kind of what I've been hearing from CEOs for the last 4 weeks. You know, we're setting up to be into a very good situation. I think over the next coming weeks. So, Don, that's my call. I got to run, but why don't you just wrap it up?
All right. Very good, John. So
Okay.
my thesis is that we are breaking out here and that gold is going, I think gold is going to get to 23, 2,500 in 2024, and silver is going to get to 50. I think it's going to get to $50. So I am bullish for 2024. All I'm saying is that I'm expecting a correction before we get there. At least one more correction down below $1,900. And I don't think 1,900 is going to hold. I think we're going to retest 1,850. But the idea that because the technicals look so good that we're breaking out here and we're going to fly higher. I think we're going to need some type of event, if you will, that to push it higher, to keep it higher, keep it above $2,000. The only way we're going to keep it above 2,000 is I just see we're going to need something that kind of triggers the fear trade, if you will, where everybody recognizes that, you know, gold's off to the races. Right now, I don't think you can say there's a recognition that gold's off to the races here. Other than, you know, the guys on the TA charts, they basically say this is it. We're off and running. I'm not there. I still think I'm going to get an opportunity to buy a dip, one more correction here, sometime before the end of Q2, and I think it's probably going to be in Q1. And I think that's One other thing that we talked about earlier that I'll repeat here is that I do think that the bottom is probably in for a lot of stocks. If you look at like Coor, I think traded at $2. I don't think it's going to go back there. First Majestic traded around $5. It might have got into the fours. I don't think it's going to go back. Silvercrest traded below 4. I don't think it's going back there. There's a lot of stocks I think that have bottomed. Avino traded about 44 cents. Now it's over 50. They probably will correct a little bit, but I think the stocks are kind of telling us that we're really close to a breakout here because you have this incredible divergence between the gold price and the miners that has to kind of close, if you will, where the miners have to catch up to the gold price. And so you're going to see this initial spurt. I think initially, because that's usually what happens when you do get a run, and we really haven't had a run. We had one in 2020, of course. So we're going to have kind of like that 2020. But this one's, I think, it's going to feel more real than that one was. That one was kind of, induced by COVID, of course, and we didn't know what was happening. So it was like a uncertainty trade, if you will. But this one, I think, is going to be, there's going to be more certainty that it's real. I don't know if that makes sense. People are going to recognize that there's gold is a place that a lot of people are going to, and it's going higher, and there's a lot of reasons for it. More so than, you have this, what I call, the reason why I'm in this is a systemic fear trade. So you have this underlying fear of the economy, the financial system, the economy basically going into a recession. Does it come back? You have the global trade, you have the dollar, you have all of these factors that are all pushing gold higher. And that's when all those factors all basically work in gold's favor, then you kind of have the green light for gold. And I actually think this is a once in a generation, once in a lifetime type of event for gold, that we've really never seen this before, where people that normally wouldn't buy gold will buy gold. And it's basically, I call it a paradigm shift. So that's it for me. We'll see you next month.